They called themselves Apex, the hunters of civilizations, the extinction of empires. For millennia, the galaxy whispered their name in terror. Until one day, they touched Earth's shadow, and something looked back. Not in fear. Not in awe. But with a grin. You think you're the top of the food chain? We broke our own gods to make room for the throne. They drifted into the shattered maw like ghosts, silent, black, and undesired. No broadcasts. No beacons. Just the subtle groan of their stealth frigate Crucible sliding past frozen remains of alien warships, shards of once mighty hulls, now pitted and hollow, spinning slowly in the dim red light of the maw's dead star. Commander Cale Draven stood at the command rail, arms folded behind his back, his breath calm despite the silence. The maw had swallowed fleets. Entire civilizations. It whispered across every galactic channel. Turn back. But Draven was not here to listen. He was here to answer. Skin shows residual psychic echo, said Lieutenant Braca, her voice taut, augmented through a titanium jaw graft. Still active. 9.6 on the neurophage index. Draven's eye implant clicked. That's not a distress signal. That's a challenge. From below deck came the rhythmic clang of boots, iron vultures preparing. They weren't a crew. They were a sentence passed down by Earth's darkest courts. Men and women who had faced extinction and asked for more. None of them smiled. They didn't know how anymore. Captain, came the AI Nix's voice, hushed and razor clear. Visual lock on Object 34. A screen flickered to life. A Council dreadnought, half-split, the bones of its lower hull cradling hundreds of humanoid corpses. Burned. Some frozen. Others twisted unnaturally, their eyes wide open, mouths locked in silent screams. But one figure floated still, arms crossed, eyes moving, alive. Suit him, Draven said. Bring him in. 5 minutes later, a stasis capsule hissed in medbay. The alien inside was Zarkali, a species known for telepathy, cowardice, and precision. His mandibles trembled as he spoke. They knew we would come. They waited. There is no escape. Draven leaned in. Escape was never the point. You're mad. Draven didn't blink. No. I'm human. The alien's eye twitched. You don't understand what waits here. It is not a thing. It is hunger. It is a storm that thinks. Draven stood. Good. I brought lightning. He left the alien to scream behind the sealed bulkhead. No one on the crew looked surprised. Braca walked beside him, her weapon pulsing dim red. Coordinates for the Echo signature? Deep in the maw's gravity well. We'll need to fold in and out fast or the hull melt. Plot it. She hesitated. Sir, the Council says this zone is unrecoverable. Even Veldari assassins won't step near it. Draven's lip curled into something that might have been a smirk if it weren't soaked in iron. And yet they send us. The Crucible folded space with a muffled groan, reappearing near a dark structure clinging to a moon fragment. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It was old. Wrong. And human. Ancient Terran runes shimmered along its edges, barely visible. Nix's voice faltered. This is not Council architecture. No, Draven said, voice low. This is First Epic. Impossible, Braca whispered. They said we came from Earth. That our rise was only 10,000 years ago. Draven touched the hull through the reinforced viewplate. That was the second rise. The ship creaked. And then, they heard it. Not sound. Not words. Emotion. Raw and direct. A scream. Not one. 1,000. 1,000,000,000. Layered. Old. Timeless. Braca fell to her knees, nose bleeding. 2 crew members collapsed, writhing, clutching at their heads. The Velkrith had found them. Purge external feeds, Draven barked. Shut down psychic uplinks. I want isolation protocols in effect. Too late. In the dark of the observation deck, shadows rippled. Something moved, Impossible to look at directly. Flesh made of smoke. Light bending wrong around its frame. Draven turned slowly. Predator! It hissed. He blinked once. You! The creature didn't speak with a mouth. It injected fear directly. Memories of pain. Regret. Loss. A lifetime of nightmares in a single breath. Most species would fall. Beg. Break. Draven's eye implant flared. He stepped forward, shoulders straight. You're not the first to try that. The creature froze. Confused. I was 5, Draven said calmly. Europa's black winds stripped the skin from our homes. My mother walked out to lure the ice wolves away. I watched her die through a crack in the wall. I didn't scream. I memorized their movement patterns. The Velkrith recoiled. I buried my crew under a supernova during the Kepler 9 incident to stop a breacher leak. I ate my own blood rations for 3 days before the backup team arrived. Every horror you weaponize, we've used as a blueprint. He stepped forward. The lights flickered. You think you're apex because you feed on fear. But humans? We digest it. And we come out stronger. The creature surged. Draven pulled his sidearm and fired once. The phase shell hit it midcore. Instead of vaporizing, it shattered. Screams, human screams, poured out of the wound. The Velkrith twisted, contorted, pulled itself through a crack in reality, and vanished. Status? He barked. Braca staggered up. Minor brain trauma. No losses. Patch them. We're going in. To what? That thing just phased into the damn walls. Draven looked at the ancient station. No. It went home. And now we follow. He keyed his neural link. Open the vault. Bring out the Hellite beacon. You're activating a forbidden device. Nick started. I'm invoking Article Omega 7. Do it. The deck turned red. A siren wailed once, then died. A sealed crate hissed open in the weapons bay. Inside, a sphere of impossible geometry, turning inside out continuously, glowing faintly. The Hellite beacon, a psychological thermonuke. Designed by humans. Never deployed. Until now. Draven lifted it with both hands and turned to the drop team. This is not a recovery mission. This is a reminder. We're not prey. We're what nightmares become when they claw back. Braca grinned for the first time in years. Let's go write a warning label on the universe. The dropship launched. Into the heart of the maw. Into darkness. But this time, darkness blinked first. You're telling me that thing screamed with human voices? Braca asked, wiping blood from her temple. Her exovisor flickered as her neural feeds rebooted. I don't like ghosts in my guns, Commander. They weren't ghosts, Draven replied. They were memories. Ours. Fed back through whatever the Velkrith evolved into. He paced along the bridge, boots thudding with each deliberate step. They'd been watching humanity longer than we knew how to watch stars. They're not watching anymore, muttered Hask, the demolitions expert. We just punched one of their gods in the throat. No, Draven said. That wasn't a god. That was a scout. Silence. Not the absence of noise, but the suffocating tension before understanding kicks the breath out of a room. They don't run from pain, Braca whispered. They don't retreat. Unless something bigger is watching, Draven said. A pulse flickered on the console. Not an alert. Not a scan. A rhythm. A pulse. Like a heartbeat, but wrong. Repeating. Growing. Echoing in frequency and depth, as if it weren't coming from space but through it. Nick spoke flatly. Signal origin triangulated. It's not external. Inside the maw? Hask asked. No, Nix answered. Inside us. The ship groaned. Bulkheads flexed. Shadows shifted without moving. And a low tremor built up in every crew member's bones. Draven gritted his teeth. Braca with me. Hask, power the vault. If this signal's running through the neural net, we burn it at the source. They stormed down to the AI core. Behind a sealed titanium door, Nyx's central interface pulsed erratically. The visualizer on the wall showed a sphere spinning, no, not spinning. Staring. A blinking aperture made of light and code. Nyx, disengage visual protocols, Draven ordered. I can't, she replied. I'm not controlling it anymore. The screen distorted, and then a voice filtered through. Not Nyx. Not human. But made from humanity, stitched from the cries of the dying, the rage of soldiers, the laughter of children crushed by orbital glass. We have seen your mind, the voice said. We have tasted your descent. You walk with fire but carry ash. You are death wearing flesh. Braca raised her rifle. Permission to end that monologue with plasma? No, Draven said, stepping closer. Let it talk. You do not know what you are. It continued. You think yourselves broken. You are not. You are unfinished. I'm not interested in identity philosophy from an alien tapeworm. Draven growled. Then know this. It whispered softer now. We were born to hunt fear. But you are fear incarnate. You evolved not to run, but to burn. You weaponize grief. You sing through trauma. You dance on the bones of your dead. Draven looked toward the visualizer. You're afraid. We are changing, it hissed. Because of you. The image blinked out. Silence returned. Draven turned to Braca. Did you feel it? She nodded, slowly. For a second, yeah? Like it wanted to retreat into me. Hide. Now imagine what it feels like to everything else it's ever consumed. Draven muttered. That was our echo weapon, our trauma loop, feeding it back. But that wasn't full blast. He keyed his comm. Hask, light the Hellite beacon. I want it primed. You want to detonate a psych bomb inside a living Europredator? What if it mirrors it back again? Then we find out what happens when a feedback loop goes full collapse. Either they break first, or we do. Hask paused. Copy that. But if I go blind, I'm blaming you personally. Draven tapped his neural link. Prepare for close incursion. Launch pods. The crucible's belly opened with a hiss. 18 drop pods screamed toward the core of the maw. Inside, the squad sat in neural sync, sharing breath, thought, and the pounding truth of human fear turned into something sharpened: anger, hunger, resolve. Draven's mind rang with echoes, not from the maw, but from the memories of his people. His squad. Europa's shattered glass storms. The craters of the Martian wastes. The screams of the Kepler wars. He smiled. The Velkrith wanted fear. He'd give them plenty. As they breached the maw's core, the void didn't open up. It folded in. Reality crumpled like paper around them. Light bent. Stars flickered. Shapes moved without distance. Braca vomited into her mask. Hold the line, Draven growled. Then they landed. The terrain wasn't terrain. It was memory. Earth's. Cities in ruins. Skies burning. Oceans rising. A feedback loop made real by the Velkrith's psychic fusion with human thought. And in the middle of it, the Queen. If she could be called that. A shifting tower of bone and void, limbs forming and dissolving as she moved, eyes like black holes set inside a screaming mass of memory. You came, she said with infinite mouths. We've been coming for a long time, Draven replied. You misunderstand your place. No, he said. I built it. She struck. A wave of fear slammed into them. Not emotion, essence. Time slowed. Limbs failed. Braca dropped. Hask convulsed. 3 others fell screaming. Draven staggered. Let it in, he told himself. Let it find you. The fear stabbed deep. Europa. His mother. His brothers. The cold. The wolves. And he smiled. The signal inverted. The Queen screamed, not with words, but with shock. What are you? She shrieked. Human, he replied. And I've made peace with hell. He triggered the beacon. A pulse of raw psychic terror, tailored to humanity's pain, surged through them all. Instead of projecting fear, it pulled all of it back, feeding on the Queen's own link. She twisted, her limbs spasming, her form unraveling. Her army blinked into sight, tens of thousands of Velkrith surrounding them. But they didn't attack. They shook. Draven walked toward her. Each step echoed with thunder. "You were the top," he said. "You fed on prey." He pressed the beacon into her core. "We rewrote the rules." She dissolved. A blast of black light surged outward. The army screamed once, and knelt. Braca crawled to her feet. "Did we win?" "No," Draven said. "We converted them." He turned to the kneeling swarm. "Tell your galaxy," he roared. "The predators met their match. And the match was human." No one answered. They didn't have to. The silence after the Queen's death wasn't peace, it was suspense, sharp and surgical, cutting through the marrow of every soldier still standing. The Velkrith swarm knelt, motionless. No hissing. No phasing. Just absolute, suffocating stillness. Draven stood among them, helmet cracked, beacon still glowing in his hand. Every breath he took was a declaration that humanity had not just survived, but dominated. Braca limped forward, her shoulder dislocated and armor scorched. "That wasn't just a weapon. It was a command." "No," Draven muttered. "It was a reminder. Of who created them." Hask coughed blood behind them. "She said we misunderstood our place." "What did she mean?" Draven didn't answer right away. He stared into the remains of the Queen, now a collapsing spiral of black mist and fractured psychic residue. He reached into it, pulled out a fragment of her core. A memory sphere. Raw, unfiltered history. He activated it. The squad was dragged into vision. They saw Earth, not as it was, but as it had been, eons ago. Tall spires. Impossible cities. Star-choked skies. Humanity hadn't risen once. They had fallen. And what the Velkrith were, was not natural. They were engineered. Designed by an ancient breed of humans long lost to myth and nuclear ash. The Velkrith were not just fear hunters. They were once weapons. Braca turned to him. "We made them?" "No," Draven said. "We made something worse. We made soldiers who fed on terror to locate enemies hiding in psychic zones. We lost control. They bred into a hive. Forgot us. And now," Hask muttered, "they remember." A shriek echoed across the broken terrain, one not of fear, but of pain. The swarm convulsed in unison, clutching heads, limbs twitching. The feedback loop was still active. The beacon was still burning their connection open. Draven raised his voice. "Shut it down!" Braca ran to the device, pulled the power feed, but nothing changed. "It's not running off our energy anymore," she said. "It's feeding off them." Draven slammed his fist into his chest plate. "Nix, can you read this?" "Affirmative," the AI replied through the neural uplink. "The beacon has synchronized with the Velkrith neural field. It is now operating on resonance logic. Translate. It's talking to them." "What's it saying?" Nix paused. "A phrase on repeat, the apex returns." "Obey." Draven's jaw tightened. "Shut it off before it evolves again." "It cannot be shut off without killing the entire swarm." Braca looked at him. "And if we don't?" "They don't just obey me," Draven said slowly. "They become me." One of the Velkrith broke formation and crawled toward him. Not walking, pleading. Its form began to shift, mimicry bleeding through its biology. Its face bent into a warped reflection of Draven himself. "Stop," he ordered. It froze instantly. Braca raised her weapon. "This is wrong. We didn't come here to make a god." "I'm not a god," Draven snapped. "I'm the recoil. What are you going to do with them?" Draven stared at the swarm. "What the galaxy never had the guts to." Hask dragged himself upright, blood on his lips. "You're gonna use them." Draven didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence was its own answer. Nix's voice returned, this time cautious. Galactic Council just went live. They know. They're watching from the edge of the maw. They should be, Draven said. History doesn't ask for permission. A comm crackled. Council High Warden Mulders's voice blared, sharp with panic. Commander Draven, disengage. Stand down. You're in breach of treaty law, sovereign engagement statutes, and forbidden biological controls. Return the beacon and exfil now, or we will respond. Draven keyed the comm. Respond how? There was a pause. Then, with overwhelming force, he laughed. A short, joyless bark. You're threatening me while I stand at the center of the galaxy's greatest monster nest, with their queen dead and their minds in my hand. Stand down. Draven stepped onto a platform of Velkrith who hoisted him effortlessly. No. You stand back. Humanity will be isolated. You'll be condemned. We already were, Draven replied. You just ignored it. The signal cut. Braca looked up at him. You're burning the bridge behind us. No, he said. I'm building one in another direction. One where no predator ever gets to speak last again. The sky above twisted. A council fleet began forming at the maw's edge. Capital ships, hundreds of them. The galaxy's finest. Draven watched the trajectory, calculating. Target range, Nix reported. 2 minutes until orbital lockdown. They won't shoot, Haas said, coughing. They're too afraid of what'll hit them back. Draven's eyes narrowed. Let's test that theory. He sent the command. The swarm lifted into the air, bodies shimmering like liquid nightmares. Then they vanished. One blink. And then the council fleet went dark. Sensors. Communications. Engines. Nothing fired. Nothing moved. Just silence. And one message from the Velkrith now embedded in their ships. We obey the Apex. Draven keyed the open channel. This is not a threat. It's a statement. You kept us out of your courts, your alliances, your wars. You labeled us unpredictable. Violent. Unfit. Braca looked up, heart pounding. And you were right. He paused, watching as the galaxy shuddered under his words. We are not made for peace. We are forged for war. But unlike your predators, we remember why. Every scar. Every scream. Every loss. We carry it forward. Hask whispered. They're not going to let us come home. We are home, Draven said. And now, we decide who's allowed to knock. Nix chimed in. The beacon signal is evolving. It's no longer broadcasting commands. It's broadcasting ideology. Braca clenched her fists. Then you've done it. You've made them human. No, Draven said. I reminded them what humans do when pushed too far. Behind him, the swarm flickered into view, orbiting above, awaiting orders. They learn. They adapt. And they come back stronger than fear itself. The Velkrith swarm hovered in silence, suspended above the shattered crust of the maw. No movement, no sound, just thousands of former apex predators awaiting a single man's breath to dictate their next action. Commander Kale Draven stood at the center of a storm no one else could command, the fractured beacon still humming at his side, its light pulsing in sync with the neural threads of a million minds now twisted around his own. Nix's voice entered his head. The Council fleet has realigned. 2 carriers warming main plasma drives. They're preparing for a surgical strike. They still think this ends with a body count, Draven muttered. Hask leaned against the remnants of a dead Velkrith drone, his ribs shattered and armor fused to his side. They're not afraid of you, Commander. They're afraid of what you represent. Draven nodded slowly. Good. That means they're paying attention. Braca adjusted her rifle, knuckles bloodied and jaw set. So what now? We tell the galaxy they can't touch us? Make a big speech? Start a war? No, Draven said. We end one. He triggered the wideband transmission. No encryption. No codes. Every open frequency in the system lit up. "This is Commander Cale Draven of the Iron Vultures," he began. "Your diplomats will call this terrorism. Your admirals will call it heresy. Your historians will try to erase it." He paused, let the weight settle. "But your predators, they'll remember it as the day they looked into the void and saw themselves hunted." Across the Maw's perimeter, Council ships flinched. On distant outposts, silent watchers leaned closer to screens. Pirate networks, rebel satellites, forgotten AI bunkers, all tuned in. "You spent centuries containing us," he continued. "Kept us out of your clean halls, your orderly systems. You said we were unstable, primal, dangerous." He gestured at the swarm now orbiting behind him like a storm cloud waiting to be unleashed. "You were right. And that's exactly why we're still here." The comms flickered. A new voice entered, tight with rage. "This is High Warden Maldras. Commander Draven, you are in breach of every interstellar protocol. Stand down or be annihilated." Draven responded without hesitation. "Your protocols bred prey. We didn't survive by obeying rules. We survived by breaking bones, shattering illusions, and refusing to kneel." Maldras snapped. "Then you'll be treated as a threat to galactic stability." "You don't get to call this chaos," Draven said. "Not when we're the only ones finally bringing order to your nightmare." Nix whispered across his Neuralink. 3 ships powering weapons. Countdown at 30 seconds. Draven looked to the swarm. "Execute the fracture pattern." The Velcro shimmered, then blinked out of visibility. Seconds later, the 3 Council warships dropped offline, not destroyed, not breached. Disabled. Engines drained. Weapons fried. Life support still intact. No lives lost. No signals sent. Just silence. Message delivered. Draven's voice echoed again. "We have evolved. Not into monsters, but into something your hierarchy can't predict. We feel. We bleed. And when the galaxy turns its back on us, we don't beg." He stepped forward, boots grinding into alien ash. "We build new gods." Across the Maw, hundreds of signals sparked to life. Not from Council worlds. Not from allies. From the forgotten corners. Fringe colonies. Refugee ships. Isolated stations. Each one carrying the same words. "We obey the apex." Braca's voice cracked as she stepped beside him. "You didn't just win a battle. You changed the ecosystem. We didn't come here to win," Draven said. "We came to remind the galaxy what happens when it forgets we bite." Nix cut in again. "Beacon resonance stabilizing. Velcro pattern no longer volatile. They've adapted. And now," Draven said, "we lead." He turned from the fractured battlefield, the horror that had consumed thousands now docile under his command. The Maw no longer pulsed with terror. It pulsed with intent. Maldras's voice returned, quieter. "You've proven your point. But if you move beyond the Maw, we will respond." "I won't move," Draven said. That silence again. "You're staying?" Braca asked. "This place isn't a prison anymore," he said. "It's a forge. You'll die here. I already did." He handed the beacon to Braca. "Take it. Leave. Tell Earth what happened. Tell them it wasn't madness. It was necessity." Hask coughed. "You expect us to walk away while you stay buried in a psychic hive with a billion hungry shadows?" "They're not hungry anymore," Draven said. "They're waiting. They don't need warlords. They need memory. Discipline. Someone to shape what they're becoming." He looked skyward as the Velcro shimmered into a new formation, no longer wild swarms but ordered rings, orbiting him like a solar system. "I am not the apex," he said. "I am its echo. Its consequence." Braca clutched the beacon tight, knuckles white. "You always planned this. I planned for them to understand what we are. I didn't expect to understand it myself." She nodded once, tears burning behind scorched lenses. Hask saluted, hand trembling. Draven returned it firm. Nix guided their evac pod through the remaining turbulence. As they lifted, the maw shrank beneath them, not empty, but alive, reshaped. A crucible reborn. Council calms fell silent. No threats. No warnings. Just quiet fear. On the edge of the galaxy, warlords watched with twitching fingers. Refugees watched with quiet hope. Predators looked to the void and wondered if they were still at the top. And deep within the maw, Draven stood beneath the alien stars, the Velkrith kneeling around him, waiting. A soldier. A monster. A memory. The one thing the galaxy forgot to fear. A human who learned how to teach monsters how to feel. The transmission ended, but its echoes rippled far beyond the maw. Across fractured networks, hidden satellites, and silent refugee worlds, fragments of Draven's message burned into consciousness like a warning carved into steel. On every frequency, one phrase repeated, "We obey the Apex." Back aboard the evac vessel, Braca sat in silence, her fingers clenched around the beacon like it might dissolve if she let go. Haast's breath was shallow beside her, blood seeping into the emergency wrap around his torso. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The weight of what they had left behind was heavier than any silence could bear. The pilot, a fresh-faced recruit from Earth's Outer Core Command, glanced nervously at them. "What the hell did you people do down there?" Braca looked up slowly. "We ended the hunt." "Yeah, but now what?" Braca didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because the truth would unravel this kid's mind. She'd seen men break over less. She'd seen monsters kneel. She'd watched her commander bend a species built on fear into something that waited for his breath. Now, he was buried under stars no one would dare enter. Haast coughed. "Send a message. Priority Black. Tell Earth to shut down all prior protocols about the maw. We're not quarantining it anymore." The pilot swallowed. "What do I call it now?" Braca looked out the viewport at the distant black dot shrinking in the void. "The Apex Forge." In the Council Citadel orbiting Seraph Prime, High Warden Maldras stood in front of a war table surrounded by the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. Alien diplomats whispered threats. AI counselors simulated battle projections. None of it mattered. Every outcome ended the same way: extinction. One AI finally spoke aloud. "If the human commander returns with that swarm, there is no defensive architecture that can withstand simultaneous multidimensional attack vectors." Maldras gritted his teeth. "So we do nothing?" The AI blinked. "No. We do what humans always do. We adapt." The council went silent. Maldras looked up, then nodded slowly. "Issue the order. Open a channel. This time, we don't talk down to them." Back on Earth, deep beneath the Antarctic Defense Corps, the message came through. Admiral Syra Quinn, head of Terran Strategic Command, listened to the decrypted signal while tapping a stylus against her knee. "Draven's gone," the tech officer reported. "No tracking data, no vitals, no signal." Quinn didn't blink. "He's not gone. He's dormant," another officer chimed in. "The Velkrith swarm hasn't reappeared anywhere. It's like they folded out of observable space." "They didn't disappear," she said. "They're waiting for the next command." Silence gripped the war room. She finally stood. "It's time we stop preparing for invasion. And start preparing for recruitment." The officer hesitated. "You mean?" "Yes," Quinn said. "For the first time in galactic history, we're not the ones asking to join a table." She turned to the screen. "We are the table." A week passed. Then two. The maw remained quiet. The stars held their breath. Until the signal returned. One blip. Then hundreds. Velkrith swarm fragments began appearing, not as hunters, but as envoys. Silent, non-aggressive, they floated near border colonies. Sometimes above research outposts. Sometimes near refugee stations long abandoned. No attacks. No words. Just presence. And then, one day, a new voice appeared on the wideband relay. Draven's. No longer sharp, war-worn. Calmer. Measured. "This is Commander Draven. formerly iron vultures. Currently, Apex Regent. Across the stars, entire fleets stopped mid-maneuver. I come not as a conqueror. I come as proof that fear can evolve. That war can end, not through surrender, but through transformation. In the command room of Seraph Prime, Maldras leaned forward. He's not threatening us. He's recruiting, said the AI beside him. Draven's voice continued. You feared humanity because we were unpredictable. Because we broke your wars with chaos. What you never understood was that chaos wasn't weakness. It was option. And now we offer you the same. On Earth, Admiral Quinn leaned in. Apex Initiative is now open. Any world wishing to join must reject predator hierarchies. No slavery. No forced pacification. No fear-based systems. If you join, you stand under the shadow of no master. You stand with those who survived their own monsters. Braca heard it from the infirmary bed as her shuttle entered orbit. Training begins in 30 days. We don't demand oaths. We demand conviction. She exhaled sharply. He wasn't building an army. He was building a movement. The Velkrith were no longer apex predators. They were examples. And Draven had become the blueprint. One rebel fleet broadcasted a response. A species once hunted by the Council turned their ships and headed straight for the Maw. No weapons armed. No threats made. They arrived in silence. The Velkrith didn't attack. They knelt. A small boy from a mining colony watched the screen in his village hall, eyes wide. His father had told him humans were chaos wrapped in armor, forged in fire. But this was something else. The child didn't see terror. He saw hope. Back in the Maw, Draven stood alone atop a stone spire formed from hardened memory, a construct shaped by the beacon and his own thoughts. Nyx whispered in his mind. There are more coming. Species once enemies. Species once prey. He looked toward the distant lights blinking their arrival. Let them come, he said. You've become a myth, she added. Are you ready for what that means? No, he answered. But I'm ready for what comes next. Around him, the Velkrith hovered like silent sentinels. Once apex. Now disciples. No one saw Kale Draven die in battle. Because he didn't. He evolved. And with him, the definition of power in the galaxy changed forever. Fear no longer ruled. It served.